Hello and welcome to GFW Radio. This is the podcast for March 12th, 2007. 2008.
Okay, I
can't do this right.
Get the date right.
Even
You can't get the fucking year right.
I can't ever do it right.
At least you got the name of the podcast this time.
Damn it. You know what? This reminds me, before I let you guys introduce yourself, which we have to do because Blizzard said so, and I do whatever Blizzard says, is that Dell Computer... These motherfuckers, I hope they're not sponsoring the show because I'm going to rant about them for a second. I bought a laptop from them a couple years ago, and we did like their payment plan so I didn't have to pay it all at once. And I paid it off in full this past December. It's now March. And they've been calling my goddamn house. That we get their automated, like, please call our customer support center like 20 times a day, even though the thing's all paid off. And, like, my wife, who has to deal with this shit because I'm here fucking around all day, she's the one at home who has to, like, manage everything. She's been blowing a gasket over this thing and calling them and keeps telling them we paid it in full. She has to go through all the, like, you know, Indian support, you know, the outsourcing over and over and over. She's trying to get to talk to somebody at Dell in Texas. She finally does after months of this like phone harassment by these guys. And I'm calling it harassment because we paid it off. It was done. It was a done deal. And it turns out that the reason they've been phone bombing us is because when they put the thing in saying paid in full, like our last payment, which we made on time, by the way, the person at Dell who did it signed it off, paid in full, December, 12th, 2008.
Oh,
okay. That's why I told that whole story, because of me getting the year wrong just now. So because of a clerical error,
let it be a lesson to you. You should be very careful when saying the date.
yeah,
exactly.
Leaving out some key parts, though.
What?
And leave it to me to bring them to the light of day.
Okay, bring them.
Your wife was threatening the phone support people with you wielding your cudgel of Xanthor being an editor for a prominent PC gaming magazine. How he'll blog about this. He'll blog about this.
Yeah, she was.
And you told me this in shame.
Yeah.
Like, oh no. God, honey, don't say that.
Oh, and now I'm doing it on
Here
the podcast.
you are.
Here I am.
Beating him down with your cudgel.
Yeah, but no, that's all fixed now, supposedly, so I don't have to rag on Dell. They're good people.
You put your cudgel down.
Yeah, no, that's true. Because she was really going nuts. You know, it's like, because you get off the phone with these people and they're like, okay, yes, ma'am, it's all taken care of. And then, 2 hours later, we get the automated thing again. So she finally blew a gasket, and I was in the room when she was like, my husband works at a national magazine, and he has a blog that lots of people read, and you don't know who you're dealing with. And I was like, oh, don't do that. Don't play that card. No.
So what was it like when they found the error? Was it like, no, it's all right. Let's see. It's just December 20. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's how it went down. Oh, it was our fault all along.
I'm sure the person you talked to that last time had never talked to you the 9,000 other times, too. So.
Right, it was never the same person, because that's what would happen.
Care.
That was part of the frustration, is they would say, the guy would say, like, okay, ma'am, I understand your frustration. We don't want to lose you as a customer. Yet, next time this happens, I want you to call me personally. Well, no, I can't give you my name, but here's my badge number. It's 82457. So then my wife calls back and it's like, whoa, there's a Freudian slip. Well, sometimes I call her mommy, but we don't talk about that in public. Yeah, then she would call back, and say like, no, I don't want to go through all this again. I was told I could just ask for badge number 83457, and they'll go, what? Well, we don't use badge numbers here. It'd be some bullshit like that.
Yeah.
Where she can't ever get back to the same guy.
To be fair, some GFW subscriber has had his or her version of this with our subscription phone line or something.
Hell yeah.
Although it's over like a $15 magazine subscription, not a $2,000 computer. But yeah.
Or a subscription that they never asked for that we gave them and then started charging them for. That happens all the time, too.
Otherwise known as how we get revenue.
Yeah, that's called garbage.
Looking up people in the yellow pages.
That's called garbage circ in the publishing business.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they just like spam out subscriptions to people, just so we can say I said they.
Just
changing it to we.
Randomly?
Well, it might be based on because they had a subscription to PC Magazine like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, here, let's give this guy a CGW subscription or GFW subscription, and then we can say we have this many subscribers. And then we get the angry letter back from his wife saying, he died 15 years ago. And when he was alive, he hated games. So fuck you. Because we've sent them like the collection notice from the collection agency.
Oh, God.
Yeah, from the subscription they never wanted.
Lovely. Lovely.
So what's this about?
Anyway,
Blizzard saying.
Well, hold on. Hi, welcome to our podcast. I'm Jeff Green, editor-in-chief for Games for Windows Magazine. Who are you fellows?
Ryan Scott. I'm Ryan Scott.
Say it with some balls. You're Ryan Scott. Ryan Scott.
Let's hear it again.
Now you put me on the spot.
No, come on. Ryan Scott.
Ryan Scott.
All right.
Have you seen how many gifts there are of you?
Yeah, it's actually very disturbing and makes me never want to appear in front of a camera again. Thank you, NeoGAF.
They're pretty badass, though.
They are badass.
They're
You
suited
look
for
like a tough
multiple
guy.
occasions, too.
There's just something vaguely disturbing about just seeing pictures of my face all over like a message board. Like,
At least it's just your face.
Well, that's true.
If you haven't seen these, it's basically, I don't know where they got them, but you like sort of turning to face the camera.
Well,
with
it
just like the
was
sober
from a one-up
stare.
show appearance.
What are you talking about? And that one's perfect. So someone writes some nonsense. It's like I don't even have to type anything. I just hit copy and just hit paste. There's my response.
You are an emoticon.
But I understand.
Yeah,
I was like, I
somehow
don't.
I'm not. I'm kind of weirded out about being an internet meme.
You've just
Like,
yeah. You're an emoticon now. That's right.
That's what happens.
Sean said.
That's yeah.
It's too late. You have to live with it. Every day.
strange.
Continue introductions, Sean.
I'm Sean Elliott.
Robert Ashley.
And Sean Malloy.
Done with that.
Welcome back, Robert Ashley.
Yes, thanks.
As usual,
But yeah, like,
you've
break down
graced
the-
us with a kind of day-glowy shirt. You always have something sort of...
Yeah, it's laundry day. Tour de France shirt.
It says Le Tour de France,
Yeah,
which is classy.
I don't speak the French.
Mm-hmm.
I think we ought to call it Tour de France. I don't know why we call France, but then when we talk about the Tour de France, we insist on pronouncing it correctly.
Lee Tour de France.
I don't know. We were in Paris during the tour when it was returning to Paris, and my mother-in-law bought me a shirt, even though we didn't even watch it. We just kind of passed it by and said, "Look at those cyclists."
But now you got it's a conversation piece.
Yeah,
We're
it's
talking about
yellow.
it right now.
It's very, very yellow.
It's money well
It's very
spent.
yellow.
Hundreds of people now know about your shirt.
Yeah, great,
Dozens.
fantastic, exciting. So wait,
what
what's
about
this
Blizzard?
thing? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I went to this media day at Blizzard yesterday. They were showing off the Zerg in StarCraft 2. So I was there with the gaggle of games journalists, the usual crowd of buffoons and smelly retards.
Sounds like you had fun.
Yeah, they had the the pile of brownies and the sodas and the chips for everybody to continue to get fat on while we played StarCraft 2 all day. So they knew what our diet was, and they gladly fed it to us while we sat there and played. So. But no, it was fun. But I do want to say, because there's been 8 million reports about every aspect of this online already, but not as many people have talked about the place itself, because Blizzard moved. And before, Blizzard was always in Sean Malloy, you've been there, and I don't know who else in this room has been down to Blizzard, but they're in a business park in Irvine, totally nondescript. Actually, they're still in a business park in Irvine, but before it looked like it could be whatever,
Unitech.
Exactly. Yeah. Any random thing. And now you see it's like what you would expect, especially, this is totally the house that World of Warcraft built. As the cab is driving up, it really looks now like you're coming up to a movie studio. They have this huge Blizzard Entertainment arch going over the thing, over these like 2 giant black iron gates that's got a security booth in the front of it. Our cabbie, they wouldn't even let our cab into the place until like those of us in the cab were identified and cleared to enter. And it's totally like a big time deal now. They have their own restaurant inside, their own gym. Even the Coke machine, like every Coke machine was like custom painted, sort of like a 70s van, with like Warcraft shit on it and stuff like that. Oh, they also have their own museum inside. They have their own museum, and not just their own museum, a full-time curator on staff.
Wow.
His job is to do what? Dust the boxes?
Well, that's what I said. I was like, didn't they do their job? Because they set this up now. Now what do they do all day?
Now they're documenting the ongoing history of Blizzard.
Well, what the PR person said when I asked that snarky question was, well, there are a lot of walls in these buildings. So I guess they're gonna work on the other walls. There's 3 buildings now at Blizzard.
So is this just for the employees? Like, because there's a big security gate outside. So
right, but I guess it's for like when they do deign to open, Wonka's chocolate factory and let people in. Mm-hmm. They've got all this stuff on the wall, and there actually was cool stuff on the wall. Like there was, behind glass, they had like every script draft of the South Park World of Warcraft episode behind glass. So it was like 20 revisions of this thing, along with the Emmy that they won for it. Other random crap like that. You guys aren't looking that impressed. Wasn't that impressive?
No, I'm impressed. I'm actually sitting here thinking about how much I hate living in Northern California, because all you ever hear about is how people work in these fantastic office spaces with, cafeterias that have their own organic farm fresh chefs and masseuse and all these crazy things. And
their restaurant was awesome. And if I had thought of it, I meant to bring the menu in because it was printed out and I was going to read off some items. But everything is like there's this whole intro page before you actually get to the menu, which is like basically explaining like why you should probably eat healthy, which is probably a good thing to tell people who work in the games industry. So but all the menu items have like organic fresh egg, blah blah blah. But the cool thing too is that they all also, cool is with air quotes, is most of them have like WoW names attached to them.
Oh, like Boar's Head Stew.
There you go. Yeah.
They should try to explain the health.
Sean is grimacing.
They should try to explain the health thing like in terms an RPG player could understand. Like whole grains give you plus 2 against cancer or something. Yeah.
For the Metal Gear Solid 3 when that came out, they sent a promo. It was a can of snake meat. It said, and I was hoping it was real snake meat. Because the game's subtitle Snake Eater.
Spam or something.
So I found someone on the message board, and I told him I'd give him this collectible can, but on the condition that he has to eat whatever's in it and document it with photographs. And so I did, and I was bummed out as fuck because it was clam chowder inside of it. He ate it cold, like he didn't cook it or nothing. He ate the can, but you got off easy, man. You got a can with solid snake on it, and all you had to eat was some cold chowder.
Honestly, where do you think they're going to pick up canned snake meat? Like, where are they
throughout
cultivating
the world,
commercial snake?
Dude, somewhere in Southeast Asia or something, there has to be like, I don't know. I've had like Vietnamese liquor when it's the kind that's like served. It's held in a big giant container filled with like snakes and seahorses and basically all sorts of phallic like creatures. Anything that's like remotely tubular.
It's
totally tubular.
You've had that before?
Over at Le Cheval in Oakland.
Right.
Mm. So, man, I figured they could get a snake somewhere, put it in the can. They're trying to sell it. I don't know.
Oh, well, just clam chowder.
So back to Blizzard. Take us back.
Right. So what else? Oh,
Tell
so
us
that
about
was
the
StarCraft
toilets.
2, actually. Say what?
Tell us about the toilets.
Oh, about the toilets. Right. Where are my priorities? I was going to tell you about StarCraft 2. My bad.
It's like show and tell where like the teacher prodding you along.
Yeah. What else did you learn?
Why did you bring that transformer in here again? Does he transform?
Well,
you remember how to transform?
Yeah, Robert Ashley's holding one of the World of Warcraft comic books. If you could see now, he's doing one of those modeling poses.
And they cannot see now.
Yeah. Just imagine, your ideal of what any dumb comic book looks like, and it's basically like that, except it has the World of Warcraft logo at the top. It's got some sort of generic,
which is
Conan-looking dude with swords on the front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hate that comic.
You haven't read it.
I don't need to. I just open it up. Look, I already bitched about Joe Mad, how I think he sucks, but this is like a knockoff of him, right? So imagine if you made it your life's mission to copy someone who sucked, and then you're just like, I don't know. I mean, it's out of context, but you're reading it like, these, a set of orc daggers, long as swords and sharp as dragon's teeth. I choose a druid's weapon, this staff carved in the likeness of a stag. What about you, Crocbait? Rest easy, lad. Things look bleak now, but calm will follow the storm as surely as peace will follow war. I mean,
that actually sounds pretty cool. I mean, I was just judging by its cover, but now that you read that, it sounds like...
I'm sure.
Guess what? You got it. It's now yours. Take it home.
You're stuck with
sounds
it now.
pretty rad.
You want a book report.
All right.
So anyway, so in the men's room at Blizzard, they have racks of comic books, like a magazine rack with like this week's Marvel.
Did they have the
DC
Warcraft comic in there?
No, they didn't actually. It was like
that's all you need to know. They are not taking any offense to what I said about their fine.
They had your this week's Batman and all that stuff. So interestingly, by the urinal, not in the stall.
They just want to reassure you that there's no fecal matter on the publications.
Yeah, I guess so. But then I
don't think I'd touch it anyway. Every once in a while in our bathrooms, there's like a magazine sitting there, like on top of the toilet paper, and you're like,
Well, your ass is already sitting on the toilet seat. Just pick up the comic, man.
Or is it?
Can't get any filthier.
Well, I'm at the limit of filth. I don't want to extend it any further.
I think you got to go out of your way to get as much filth as possible because you want that barrier of protection. You got to like not be too careful about filth.
Dude,
that way you're staying
the barrier
hardy.
of protection is the 0-gallon cowboy hats they have in there.
You could actually use the comic books to sit on in the toilet.
That would be kind of a waste.
So that you're
That's the Blizzard, the face of Blizzard that sits well with me. You're living the high life. When you line your toilet seat instead of a 0-gallon cowboy hat or like whatever, like a community college diplomas, take one. Instead of that, you're using comic books.
They are living the high life now. I mean, they're still, you can tell these people have not changed fundamentally. The people who have been there a long time, who were there before. I talked to many of them before all of this.
They're just wearing capes and crowns now.
Right. Somebody made the joke earlier of the PR guy coming out in one of our meetings today. Someone made the joke about the guy coming out in a Liberace outfit to greet us. Gold lame bathrobe. Hello, hi, welcome to Blizzard.
Is that Liberace?
That's my Liberace. I don't know.
It was kind of had a little bit of Tim Gunn from Bravo in it.
Wow.
Okay, designers.
You admit Tim Gunn.
I did before. I said
okay.
I haven't had cable now for like a year, but like a year ago I watched Project Runway. It was a pretty entertaining show.
Sean's like, I don't even have cable. I don't watch that stuff.
I don't. It's just I don't want to pay for it because I don't watch it enough. And like all I watch are Battlestar and Lost, and I can watch those on the internet.
The internets.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the classic Onion story. Starbucks barista keeps insisting that he doesn't even have a television. And it's just about him annoying everyone at work by every time anyone brings up television, mentioning the fact that I don't even have a television.
It's not like that. Dude, I got this red bumper sticker for my car. It says, kill your television.
Yeah. There's a lot of that.
I drive around my high school parking lot.
I know.
Yeah, there's a lot of kill your television bumpers.
For me, it's just like there's nothing to hide. I got comic books laying around. I play video games all the time, but it's like between video games and reading and stuff. I don't know.
You just don't have time for cheaters. Me personally, I could watch cheaters every day.
On TV, man. I know that. Sometimes I just try to rent them.
Yeah,
try to rent it.
Indeed.
Where are we at?
Want to talk about the actual thing you went there for?
I could actually talk about StarCraft too, or not. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Next. Yeah, no, it was good. They had it set up. You could actually play the Zerg, but you could play all three races. Yesterday's big deal was the Zerg, so now we've seen all three races from the original game. It's still pre-alpha, as they told us 8 billion times. So things are likely to change. They will change, but we were able to just have 1v1 matches, or all the way up to 6 players, and so we all played in different configurations, all the races, and it's already totally holding up, even in pre-alpha. I mean, we had tons of fun. Clearly, there was shit that was totally imbalanced. I mean, there was some utter ridiculousness with one of the new units, the Zerg units, which is called the Roach, which is people have been talking about online already, which is this very fast regenerating smaller unit, and the early reports were that it was replacing the Zergling. So people were speculating, now it's going to be the Roach Rush because the Zerglings are gone. The Zerglings are still there. This is another unit that's like a Zergling that has like practically like an instant regen thing. So you create a bunch of these little guys, and you could send them at any unit, at least at the point it's at now in the pre-alpha. Like yesterday, I had a bunch of these guys, and I was sending them up against some Protoss, some like bigger Protoss units, and these big units could not take 3 roaches down because every time they would blast the roaches, these things would just come back to life in a second. So, and I was able to whittle down the big units by attrition.
This is the problem also, though, with demonstrating RTSs in like quick events like this, because there might be some power or another unit that's built as a counter to these things.
Oh, absolutely.
Or you can prevent them. You do something that prevents them from regenerating.
Totally.
And it's like it's pre-alpha. It's probably like legitimately unbalanced. But on top of that, whatever balance might be there, how many people are going to like get it if it's not just built into the, if it's not just a carryover from the original
for sure.
StarCraft.
I mean, and basically they sat us in front of monitors and told us to go, and it was sort of up to us to learn the units as we did.
Even like buildings and stuff. I mean, structures. I'm sure you're like, okay, let's just make stuff.
Well, exactly. I was just clicking on shit randomly, and then there's no time. This game is so fast paced that you can't sit there and like read the descriptions. So I was just clicking on everything frantically, and then sort of seeing what would happen later. At the end of the day, I played a 1 versus like 3 computer opponents just so I could like sit there and just experiment a little bit. And you go ahead.
I think they're so confident in how good the game looks and how well animated it is that that's really all they needed to communicate. Because like even when I saw the footage, I was like, wow, this looks really cool.
The Zerg look fucking great. The Zerg looks so good. I mean, they're like extra slimy and creepy and gross now.
It's just stuff that the screen is. You know that feeling you get when you discover you have an ant invasion in your house or something, but when rather than the neat, tidy little line, you see some surface and it's basically just moving, and it takes you a second to even realize that it's like basically alive. When the Zerg are on screen, it has that whole feeling of just like so much movement. You can't track every single bit of it, just wriggling, squiggling, gushy things exploding into goo. And I mean, it had like a really distinct vibe to it. It's like, this is fun. I mean, it's like it looked like a mix of take conventions from Aliens and Dune and Starship Troopers and all the, everything from worms that burrow, pass through the terrain to just the creatures that metamorphosize.
Mm-hmm.
What's the proper conjugation of that?
Change.
Yeah. It's different though. It's not because it's not normal change. It's specifically related to insect change, and they're clearly inspired by insects. I'm not just throwing it out there because it's a fancy word.
I'm just fucking with you.
There's a lot more of that this time around, where some of the units that we're used to from StarCraft 1 now evolve into other creatures. And I'm trying to think of a good example, and I'm gonna totally black them out. But the big one, of course, is the Queen, and that was the most fundamental change we've seen in, as far as I can tell, of any of the races. Is the Queen is now like central to this entire race, which of course is super cool in an insect race, right? I mean, it fits this kind of like queen bee thing, or who's there at the lair, sort of making shit happen.
So is she the equivalent of the HQ?
Well, no, because there is a base. She's not a building. She can move. In fact, she has the ability to tunnel and reappear instantly in any other base you have, which is awesome because she's basically a defensive unit. So any of your bases that are in trouble, you can just like have her burrow and come up at that base that's in trouble, and then she can like lay some shit on the buildings and stuff that will it's all about like all the stuff that they're doing with the Zerg is very insect based, which is just so neat. It's like all about like infecting shit and diseasing other units. You can disease your enemy's buildings, so that like if you're playing the Marines and I bring over the is it the Corruptor or the Infestor, whatever it's called, the bug that will do this, I can infect your barracks.
Putrinator.
Yeah. You basically like vomit this shit onto the barracks, and then the barracks for a while you can't build anything yourself. It disables it for you. And the Marines that come out are like they're like Jeff Goldblum in The Fly. They're like these grotesque Marines
that
come out.
Do you have control of those?
No, I do, but you don't.
The Zerg does.
Right, that's awesome. I mean, and these are, again, from insects. Like you have all these and various forms of like, parasitism and stuff too, where Well, actually, this isn't an insect, but like there's a typical whatever it is. I'm not sure what exactly kind of creature it is, but it gets into like a rabbit or a rodent or something like that, and then it causes it to lose all fear of its natural predators because basically it's trying to get into a host like a cat or something, where then it has its like the big phase of its lifestyle. But basically, parasites that change the behavior of organisms or that make certain types of insects go up and hang out on the tops of leaves where they'd normally be picked up by birds, and they will be picked up by birds.
Wasn't that the big explanation last year? They had a conjecture that to explain like the million cat lady syndrome. People who end up in apartments with a ton of cats. They've discovered that they're infested with a certain parasite that makes them their senses or their smelling sense like dull to cat urine, and in fact maybe they might feel attracted to cat urine.
Really? So there's like a crazy cat lady.
Yeah, like parasite. And
wow.
the funny thing is,
the
parasite is doing that because it wants the person to be eaten by cats. Like, because it lives to get inside of things that die and are eaten by cats, so they can go back into cats and reproduce, because they can only reproduce inside of cats.
So you're saying this is
no, it's for real.
Wow.
Okay, because I was saying they could just be hypothesizing it, but if they've actually like isolated and have documented enough, what then I take it is that this organism has these traits that are adapted for rodents and things like that, but somehow it's mutated so that it affects a person.
Yeah,
but I don't see what
no,
any
it doesn't actually
pressure
think
for that would be other than just them wanting to take care of the cat somehow. I think that's not gonna. That will ultimately help the organism if it needs to be in cats that are well taken care of.
Yeah, I think the thing was it feeds in other animals, but it only reproduces in the cat. Like, it must have evolved along with the cat.
So if this organism got like more insidious and smart, it could turn us into like a race of crazy cat ladies. Right.
Well, there's rabies is even another type of thing. Like, it's like the reason that rabid animals lose all inhibitions and want to, foam at the mouth and want to bite you, want to scratch you.
Except the thing is, the people who get the parasite, they get it from cat fecal matter. So it's not like it's spreading like a flu or something. You got to be in kind of gross situations.
You got to like cats anyway.
Yeah, you already got to be kind of a cat freak. So
okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Serious gold mine.
So be careful, Sean.
I got one cat.
Dude, Sean loves that fucking
slippery
cat.
slope there, dude.
I know. I need more cat piss in this house. Bring them on over. Bring them all
Can't
over.
smell it anymore.
So the Zerg are coming along swimmingly.
Do they still basically have the drones, which were kind of like stem cells before? It was just a base thing that turned into whatever you wanted to.
Yes, that's still how you build units, is you build drones that then mutate into other things.
Okay.
The one thing that was interesting to me that it looked like the creep. I could be wrong, and if I am, I apologize. But it looked like the creep, which, if you don't know, the Zerg units have to build on the creep, which is, sort of like the vomitous slime that comes out. And in the old game, the creep naturally spread as you kept building. Like every new building would sort of, naturally expand the creep. And here it looks like it doesn't. And you actually use the queen and the overlords to they slime the ground, basically. So, yes. But I could be wrong about that, but that's what it looked like.
Then it wouldn't be much of a creep, would it? It's not really
the
creepy.
Spray.
Yeah, but I definitely was finding myself running out of creep and having to like manually spray the ground. The queen also has the ability to put down toxic creep too, so that if enemy units even try to come onto your base, they just get damaged just from walking on the creep, which is kind of cool. So, it's early on again, pre-alpha, but
did they give you anyone even a hint at a release?
Oh God, no, not at all. I mean, like, the single player didn't even come up. This was all just about multiplayer, and I'm sure that they're totally woodshedding on the single player right now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the thing that struck me the most, and I was thinking about you, Sean, playing Company of Heroes, and it would really be great to get your impression at some point, was even though none of us had really played this before for real, it was already so fast-paced, and it was so easy to get behind and lose to someone who had half an inkling of what to do. Like, for example, I played James Melky most of the day, and I was playing against him and Scooter, who used to work for us, who's now at GameTap, and also Dan Stapleton at PC Gamer. And James Milkey is such a StarCraft hoe from the old days that even though we're looking at mostly all new units, his command of the StarCraft vocabulary was so huge that his army was like gigantic before any of us really had a chance, and not just the size too, even just the strategy of what to do. He had it so nailed already that I kept a log of the games that we played, and I was getting wiped out, and I would last more minutes, incrementally over time. But the first game I lasted like 6 minutes.
Wow.
The next game I lasted like 12 minutes.
That's pathetic, man.
Yeah, because he could
an RTS match to be over, and because we're up to now in Company Heroes, we're up to like 2-hour matches at times.
Right. Now the last game we played, I have to say, we all lasted about an hour, and then we had to quit. So this was the early on things, where you could just get essentially Zergrushed like in the old days. But it did cross my mind, even after I had a better, I won't use the word mastery, let's say better understanding of the game, that this RTS more than others is so fast paced, like it's almost like an action game.
So where's the fast pace coming from? Is it like, well, clearly the units are rapid deployment, they move fast. But what about like resourcing and stuff? Do you just gather resources like very quickly? There's
very
no like
quickly.
Clearly paced out beginning, middle, and like an end game where you can guarantee that it's going to take you about 15 solid minutes of resourcing before you're able to start fielding.
Yeah, absolutely not like that at all. I mean, and this goes back to the old game. Like that's part of the very initial first minute or two strategy is maximizing the drones collecting the resources. There's only 2 resources in the game, just like there were in StarCraft 1. There's just the Vespene gas and the what the hell they called the crystals. And you start off with like 6 drones, and you got to put a certain number on the crystals.
They all use the exact same resources too. Even
everybody does.
Every side.
So
does,
all sides are fighting over the resource nodes, and that's part of your strategy.
Oh,
too.
they have like nodes, and
yeah.
Is that how it always was?
Always, yeah.
Okay.
So part of the huge strategy, if not the biggest one, is getting control of those nodes to keep your economy going,
right?
And fucking the other guys up, his access to those nodes.
Yeah.
So right away you're in the rush is on from the second the game starts to get those drones on the resources, and then start cranking out the units in essentially the proper order, so that your army is already up. I mean, this game more than other RTSs feels like a race to me.
Did anyone in this group ever seriously play StarCraft?
I never played it online, which was a whole other universe.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I played a ton of it like with my friends, and that's it.
I did play it on Battle.net. I used to play random games on Battle.net before the hardcore dudes took over.
Was what I want to know is like if it's traditionally a game that facilitates a good degree of back and forth, or if it's like just very, very like direct rock paper scissors, where if one player fields this army, he's always going to win against like these other units.
No, now
that's what I'm really into. And like now is just this possibility for it, where it looks like the game's over to the point where your team's ready to quit out, and then you're like, just hold in there, and you can still by fielding your units correctly and making the right decisions, you could push the front line back and forth across the entire map. I mean,
right.
Or is it like Milky gets in there with that and that's it, game over? There's nothing you could do.
Well, that depends on the level of players. I mean, like yesterday, this was like a pro ball player playing, playing the little kids. He just was toying with us. But Blizzard was saying even yesterday that that with StarCraft 1, even now, certain strategies keep emerging amongst the pro players that will totally change the game. Someone will figure out a way to use the Terrans, or even one particular Terran unit, in a way that will change up the games of all the other pro players.
Yeah. So that's the other fun part about just playing that type of game. Is like every 2 weeks, it's like if I look at my play from 2 weeks ago, given the same army, it's significantly different. You just pick up these little things, and then you start prioritizing different tactics and units, and then. I mean, that's why the games never get old. I mean, that's why I'm still, like, it's like a year now I'm going on, and it's just like, because every time I play it, I'm getting something else out of it. And then it's, like, fun. Then you got some new technique, and it's fun to perfect that, give it some kind of a name and something. And then it's like, next week you got something else,
Well, exactly. And this is why it's 10 years on with StarCraft.
Exactly,
yeah. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be really interesting to see, like, how all these pro guys adapt to the new game. Because I was thinking beforehand, before I played it yesterday, that, well, this is cool because now that it's StarCraft 2 and there's all this new shit, it's going to be like ground zero again on BattleNet, and we'll all be able to start over and have equal footing. But after playing these guys yesterday, it was like, oh, shit, no, there is no ground zero. Milky's still going to kick my ass no matter what.
This goes for every game. Like, even, it might be like a 2 days or 3 days or something. But like when Team Fortress 2 came out, it was great. The first few days you're playing it, you're like, wow, like I'm just dominating all these people because like that much of a background from TFC helped. But then it was like 3 days later, then you just see it like, boom, all of a sudden everyone is up to speed or something,
The guys at Blizzard said that themselves. They said that what happens with every new game of theirs, and they're sure it's going to happen with StarCraft 2, is the first couple days they're online playing anonymously. They're not identifying themselves as Blizzard employees, and they're completely kicking ass.
Yeah,
and it's not even a week before they start losing.
Yeah, it happens. That's what I want to see. When that game comes out, I'm going to play it and learn it, and I will. I hope to.
What I don't understand,
Milky in 2 weeks.
What I don't understand is that I hear developers say things like that about competitive games all the time, and I wonder when you're designing a game that has a lot of strategy elements, and you realize that there are people in the audience out there that are going to be better than you in a week. How do you even design a game to accommodate them? Like, how do you even know how your game plays if there are going to be people out there who within a week have discovered things about it that you didn't even
keep
understand?
On patching them.
And you have to keep patching them, and you try to employ those people. It's easier with the sequel, right? Or if you're like a studio that's made games of a similar type, because then you pick the people who did that with your last game and you hire them and let them play it. And typically, like, if you're the guy designing, we're going to have this type of unit or something, you really need those people to see just how well it works. Just go in and try to exploit it and see, everything you could do. The kind of person, like, even when I'm hearing you're talking about the queen can come up this and that place, the kind of person who's going to want to say, how can I abuse this? The person who plays the Protoss is going to say, how can I lure the queen up here with one type of unit and then set this trap where we completely just, like, pop her with something else as soon as she comes up. I mean, that's the trick. You got to get
people latch onto the exploits, which are like the little things that they missed.
Yeah.
And they try to fix them.
Looks great though, but it was very frantic, and even that thing about the queen, it's like even just remembering that she did that, I would lose a match and then think, oh shit, I could have saved those bases had I just remembered to even use her that way.
I think
that's something that just comes with playtime, though.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The more, it'll seem to slow down, and in fact, when you'll get, I assume you'll get so good at it that you'll be like able to operate even faster than the game, where you're sitting there and you're waiting a second, like, what am I going to do now while I'm waiting for this to get over here, or this to happen, or something like that.
And Blizzard's single-player campaigns often do a good job of teaching you the value of those units. They'll have entire missions in a campaign that are basically focused on teaching you why this unit is cool.
Yeah.
So right. Yeah. Sometimes the single player campaigns and RTSs don't get into the real nuancy stuff that does matter in the long run. They kind of go into the basics, like this guy can shoot air units, so you want to build him to shoot air units, but there's so much more to it.
Right.
The trick is to just keep playing, and then when you hit this point when you suddenly feel like you have not total mastery, but you feel that you have competence, and then from that point on, it's just crazy. It's like it's feeling empowered, feeling like you're not the guy who's going to sit there and bring your team down or who's guaranteed to lose. When you start a match and you're not, and as it's loading, you're not like, wonder how long it's going to take this time to lose, and you're like, I got a good chance of winning.
Well, that's the hard part
about on. It gets great
about RTSs, against the world at large, is it's really easy to get discouraged and just assume you're never going to get there.
Yeah.
So you'll load up a few games, you'll try 5, you lose within 6 to 12 minutes as Jeff did, and you're just like, fuck this, I'm never going to be this good. And then you abandon it.
From an FPS, of course, being that you're either going to win or you're going to lose. It's not like you're going to go and get a few good kills and still enjoy yourself, even though your team, even though your red team and Team Fortress loses. Like, you're going to win total victory, or you're going to lose absolute, abject defeat. Abject defeat at the end.
Yeah, and it is. It was discouraging even in this thing yesterday. We were joking around and kidding, and it didn't count for shit. But still, seeing Milky march in with this humongous army, and it was laugh out loud funny. in the first game when my entire base, which I was like minorly proud of, he destroyed in literally seconds. He just came in and it was game over. And, and then I'm sitting there waiting to join another game, and I'm just thinking like, well, this is like a little, foreshadowing of what it's going to be like when this game goes live.
Could the rest of you have allied up against him?
Yeah, and we would have lasted a couple more minutes.
Should have been is sent them an ally offer, and then all three of you should have went for him.
The best RTS, the best I ever was at any RTS was at Age of Empires, and that was the only game where I got to the point that you're talking about, Sean. And the way that I did it at the time, so that I was able to actually go online and live, was I would just play skirmish matches against the AI, and what I would do is I would stop the match after just a few minutes so that I could just see what the computer had built by then and sort of learn from that, because it was good. The AI was good. And for the longest time, it would totally, it would have double my resources and double all these things. So even just like 1 minute, I would stop it very early on just to sort of learn, how, because the opening gambits are so important to how your game is going to develop. So, if the game's AI is good enough, that can be a way to sort of train without getting the personal humiliation of other humans.
Yeah. That's another big thing in RTS design, and it's like you don't want to create a slippery slope design is one end of the spectrum, where you're failing, and that's that whoever wins in the first 5 minutes of the game is going to win the rest of the match, because then it's a waste. And what happens is people quit out of the game once those, even 2 minutes, even if it's 1 minute, maybe it's go and take control of this one point, and then if that gives you enough of an advantage on the slope, then people just quit out. The other end is like where it can just constantly go back and forth. I was talking about you want some of that, but you want that based on skill, not on handicapping the person who's ahead and giving this huge, advantage to whoever's losing. And getting the sweet spot in between there is like it's got to be ridiculously hard. And it's another reason why I think there's so few RTSs I've played. I mean, so many of them seem like they're all about the slope, Yeah, you get it in the first 5 minutes and you win, or otherwise you lose.
I don't really play RTSs, but I'm trying to figure out Company of Heroes. The thing that bothers me about them, and I've played StarCraft or gave it a go, it's just the number of possibilities and rules. Like, it's not really a simple rule set. It's not like playing chess where you can get the basic idea of it like so quickly, and the advanced strategy of it is just sort of variations on the small number of things you can do. Whereas in an RTS, it's like you've got a billion different kinds of units that can do a billion different kinds of things, and if you don't really understand all of those rules, there's no way you can really take advantage of the game. You can't really start out in that same basic way.
There's approximations, and that's like when new players will basically rely on, like, you can get by in Company Heroes depending on the army you pick with maybe just like 3 or 4 types of units. I mean, I'm sure, like, if say your Panzer Elite and all you're going to do is infantry, you're just doing 2 variations, those with Panzerschrecks and those with 44s, and basically you do that. A really good player will whoop your ass, but you can play against beginning and mid-level players, and then you do that until you're comfortable with them, and then you start testing their powers, like their anti-tank grenades and their incendiary grenades, and then you throw in more things to the mix. Let's do a mortar half track, and then I'll bind that to my second key, so that's my second control group, and then you just go from there, and then eventually you feel like you have like absolute mastery over every tool in the kit.
Yeah,
but that's a huge distinction. Like, you learn Othello or whatever it is, and
minute to learn,
lifetime master. And these, they can. I mean, there's the danger of them, especially when they're like Dawn of War now, where there's like 9 races and something, where they just get so bloated and intimidating. And I'm not saying, I haven't even played Dawn of War, so I don't know if it's bloated, but it strikes me as, when I think of how long it's taking me to the point where I feel like now I can play any of the 4 armies in Company Heroes, like, shit, I don't need that many more just yet,
Oh yeah,
right.
I mean, I always focus on one and just go with it for a really long time before I even try to dabble in the other ones.
Well, I know that a lot of people were initially bummed when Blizzard said they weren't adding any new races.
Yeah.
But now, having seen all 3, and played a little bit of each of them yesterday. It was like, and StarCraft was a game I played for years. It's like, well, shit, I have to learn all these all over again. So it's really not, I mean, it does feel like enough, like plenty.
And for those of us, I mean, a lot of people, I imagine, will be in my position. Will be their first experience with the game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, they want to sell. Everyone that played StarCraft is probably going to pick it up, but I mean, hopefully they want to sell to a lot more people.
Yeah, it's how many years later? 10?
10.
Yeah, completely new generation of players. So.
I played some free games this weekend.
Yep.
So if I tell you about them, you can grab them.
All right.
One of them is called DipRip. It stands for Die in Pain, Rest in Peace. It's a Half-Life source mod, and it's basically like Twisted Metal, you know, vehicular combat, deathmatching. You can do team deathmatch. And the fun thing about it, one thing that makes it better than Twisted Metal, and I'll get to all the reasons why it's inferior than Twisted Metal, is that I like just the control setup for it. Being able to turn your turret with your mouse and stuff and aim that way, you get, you know, mortars that you can lob. It's basically like the way that grenades work and stuff, and rockets. It's like it's pretty cool. I like just being able to control it that way. Although this is the demo. They're calling it the demo of the mod. It's only got 3 maps and not all the vehicles and weapons in place yet, but it's got some lag between the input on your turning and when it actually does it, and that can get a little hairy. And it's a fun kind of game. I mean, half the fun was telling people in the server, as usual, you know, when you got voice chat, that DipRip basically was a code for when you flatulate during intercourse. Like, you rip when you dip.
No.
Oh, my God.
No.
Why not?
And they were all mad. And then that's what I changed my name to, is that explanation. And a lot of people, when I joined the server, they'd be like, that's what it means? It's like, the game doesn't say. It just says DipRip. Dip whip. And it's pretty fun when you just jump in and play for a little bit, but there's something about that kind of game. I'd always even get bored of Twisted Metal after a while. Like the things that made it, and I think the people that made it knew that it was potentially, that it was at heart the kind of game that doesn't have the longevity of like a GoldenEye or an FPS or something like that. Whatever it is about the car combat, it just gets older. So they threw in the characters, you know. I mean, each of the different cars is really different. It has some character associated with it that's supposedly driving it, you know, and the theme special attacks and all the other things that they added, like the ability to drop mines and freeze rays and combos. Yep. And those DipRip kind of lacks those so far. But it's
how's the stage diversity? Because the big thing with like Twisted Metal Black was just the stages were huge. There were so many like multi-level buildings with all sorts of little secret windows to crash through.
And it got so like ridiculous where, you know, you were knocking down Ferris wheels and they're, you know, running crazy through carnivals, and you blow up the Eiffel Tower, was it in Twisted Metal 3, and you can use that as a ramp.
Yep.
Into
Bobby I was a big Twisted Metal player.
You should try out DipRip then, man.
Yeah, I should check it out. I'm skeptical though of driving with a keyboard.
You've ruined this name forever.
Yeah. Well, they named it that. What a fucking dumb name. That's the stupidest name ever. I gave it some like meaning.
Even what it really stands for is still bothering me. Die in pain, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Why do they have to die in pain then?
Well, because it's a car combat.
It's
but
like
then rest in peace.
Flaming wreckage.
Can't they die in peace too?
No, because then it wouldn't be
fun. Not if you're dying at the hands of someone shooting a rocket launcher from a turret on top of a converted Hummer.
I find it hypocritical.
Are you sure it's not rest in pieces?
Oh,
there you go. That's better.
It's emphasizing. It's just shit's straight out of Full Metal Jacket. It's emphasizing the duality of combat and a man.
Wow. That's wow.
Really?
Or you could take my fucking explanation and chill. Oh, Sean's headset just fell right off his head. It was so funny. You got DipRip. So it's actually pretty fun. I recommend that you try it. It doesn't hurt. It's a pretty quick download. I got mine on FileFront. Then this other game, it's the week of free, you know, casual games. Is InstantAction.com's beta is out now.
Oh, right on.
That's basically like, you know, a service where you could play games in your web browser, and they got 3D graphics. They're actually pretty nice. You know, there's good textures and stuff on it. And there's 4 games available now. Everything works really well. You know, you just join in. It's easy as hell to add friends, to even find people, even if they're not on your friends list, to find them and just join their games. You make a party, jump back and forth. So it's a perfect kind of. At first, when I recommended to my ventrilo crew that we jump in and play it, everyone was incredulous. Like, what the fuck are you smoking? Like, you just want something to talk about for the podcast, you know? And I was like, I had actually been playing it the day before with some other people, with Zooted Granny, and it's like it's just fun. It's like if you're just talking to someone on a message board or whatever, you're like, whatever, let's just go play some games, you know? So
do the graphics and stuff run on the server side then? Is it not like using your computer? It's like inside of the browser? I was wondering about games like that. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
It's got to be using your machine.
It has to.
I would think
for some capacity, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, at the same time, I know it'll run just about on any, you know, contemporary computer, unless you're using.
I mean, that's one of those things that people talk about. You know, pie in the sky ideal is like internet connections being amazing enough to where you just, you know, run your games off of someone else's killer computer and you're just playing them on your screen. You know,
yeah,
I think we're there. I doubt. Yeah.
But this has got me also really excited to tell you about the games I played on the service. But it's also got me excited for the Quake that's coming out. Because it is basically making a browser-based Quake, and it looks at least as good as Quake 3, like visually and stuff. But again, just that kind of game, like Quake 3's never gotten old to me. The only thing it gets old is like, but the people are so good that are still playing it now that it's fucking terrible to play against them. So that's coming out. That'll be cool. But you know, some of the games on there, Marble Blast Online, that's been on Xbox Live, so people that have played it there know it's a pretty fun game. You know, the multiplayer mode, you basically, you know, you have these big worlds with ramps and things to jump on and different textures. You know, you can fall off of the worlds, and all the players in there are racing to collect these gems. They appear, you collect them all, then they appear somewhere else, and you all go shooting across the world using your power-ups like, you know, speed boosts and little gyrocopter abilities, or a mega marble power that turns you into this giant marble and you could slam everyone else out of your way or off the world. And it's pretty fun just like rolling around. I mean, the controls are fantastic on it, and this power where you can, this just sets off this blast to get stuff out of your way, or if you hit someone at full speed with your turbo boost, it'll send them like pinballing in the opposite direction. And I don't know, it's simple but a lot of fun. Another game on there called Think Tanks, that needs some more work. It's basically you're just these tanks with brains on top of the turret. Do you get it? Think tanks.
Think tanks.
You get it?
And then you shoot each other.
To riff off of Think Tank, of all things, it's not like video gamers are sitting around, you know, thinking about the latest research out of Washington D.C. think tanks. It's not like a really popular term or something.
They probably had this idea for this generic tank combat game. Tank combat is an Atari combat, and they're like, we like this idea, and we'll greenlight it, but you need a hook.
It's more evocative than
some brain
it's more evocative than DipRips, don't you think? I'd rather play
DipRips sounds like some sort of
DipRips.
DipRips sounds like some sort of really crappy, like you know, over-the-counter drug that a teenager would do, like some sort of chemical.
Yeah, it sounds like a
huffing.
snack to me.
Like, you're gonna do a dip rip, man? Oh yeah!
I dip, you rip.
Like those little sugar. Ew.
Quit saying that.
Yeah.
So the Think Tank game is kind of like, it's deliberately just this kind of like lunar gravity tank game where you just kind of bounce around the world and shoot each other, and it's pretty fun, but it needs more power-ups. They're all the ones that are in there are like all far apart, and the most fun I've got out of that so far is going in with a couple friends into a public game and then all agreeing to just gang up on one person. You're such a dick. Because they don't understand why, and they just to watch them eventually give up, and you see their tank just like sitting there where it spawns, and then the typing comes. Why are you doing this?
You're such a dick.
I can't believe you've done this.
Closing my browser.
I just imagine like some fucking down and out office clerk at a job they hate, and they're sitting there in the middle of the day. They wish they had like gone to college to study something that got them into a job that didn't suck, and they're sitting here playing this fucking stupid tank game called Think Tank. And like the moment they started up, there's like 4 assholes coming right at him to kill him over and over and over again.
And that's how it works. Too. Like, they never get it because the game's not made where you're able to fight off multiple tanks. It's not like Quake or something where you get a rocket or a railgun and you're faster and you're better. You're gonna win. It's like there's 3 tanks and you're one. You lose every single time. It's kind of like I did that with Rory and Worms for Xbox Live when that came out. We'd make games and then we just like tag team someone, and we did this guy was in our game named Wadib, which is of course like the protagonist from Dune. And so we were telling them about how we had the sexual the sexual like powers of a 9th generation Duncan Gola.
Oh wow!
You'd have to read the books to understand what that means. But he was
read past the fourth.
He was the one where that term came from, the adult beef swelling.
Yes.
But as we would team up on him, and he's like, okay, like how do you feel? Do you still think you're Muad'Dib?
Oh God!
I don't think so.
You don't have the winning way.
Oh man.
So what about you guys? And hey, by the way, that's a recommendation too. It's pretty fun so far.
Cool. Even Think Tank you're recommending?
Dude, it's pretty. I had fun. I mean, enough when you're just like screwing around with some friends, and if you're gonna go in
This
there
is
and
all
laugh
on
at it,
Insta Action. That's what this is all from. That
you just put it in instantaction.com,
Right.
and there you are.
Okay.
Next thing you know, you'll be playing.
Is it
some
really
games.
like instant? Like as soon as you sign up? Like,
as soon as you
into
sign
an
up,
account,
there's a small load time when you're first getting access to the game, so that must mean that something is stored on your computer. Mm-hmm. It's not very long at all. I mean, it's 2 or 3 minutes, and then after that, it is instant action. You just press the button and you change games back and forth with one another too. Like we'll go from, the Marble Blast Online to Think Tanks and this other one. It's like a dumb skydiving game. It's also on Xbox Live. That when I asked Zooted Granny, who I was playing with, if what he thought of it, if we should try it, and he said he got the Xbox One and that he's convinced that the CIA is now using it instead of waterboarding. So I took that as my
Let's not play this one anymore.
Yeah.
This is the one that also got that Tribes like thing coming out, right?
And so it's got this like game like Tribes coming out, and Tribes is the old PC FPS where everyone's got a jetpack and
Jetpacks are cool.
Well loved,
great game.
and it should be being able to play that kind of game in that environment should be fun.
Tribes is way ahead of its time. That's such a good franchise.
I saw some
really
video
was.
of that running, and it looked like really, really nice. That game that you're talking about.
Yeah.
What's it called? The new one?
What it's Legend something.
Immortal Legend.
It's a ridiculous name.
It was
It's
like
nothing
out
to
on-
do with Tribes.
It was like
Absolutely
out on these
forgettable
grassy
name.
plains, and it was like this kind of cool juxtaposition of these fucking robot-looking guys like trying to kill each other and all this
then a
peaceful
pleasant
prairie
sunset.
land.
Yeah.
like multiple moons hanging in the sky.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of
stuff.
nice. Like compared to usually like shooters put you in like
Swords.
War World, or like dark.
Well,
gritty-
Tribes is always like that.
Yeah,
itself.
I never got to play that.
Yeah, outdoorsy, big, huge expanses. Just be jetpacking around from one mountain to
One
the other.
canyon to
Nice.
the other.
This isn't really a game, and maybe you guys have tried this out, but it's another free diversion. I guess you could call it a casual game. Have you heard of freerice.com?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
we
Why, we
wrote
just
about
did a
it in our
story.
magazine. In fact,
Well, there you go. But for
didn't
anyone,
you write the article?
no.
Okay, I thought you were like
Julian did.
Julian.
Oh,
Ward.
okay.
No.
All
But
right.
it's basically this guy who created this cool. Okay, to call it cool might be a stretch, but it's a fun if you enjoy words
cool.
sort of vocab game where they give you a word and you match it to one of 3 other words, and it comes up immediately when you go to the page. It's like a quiz, and each time you get one of these right, the advertiser on the page donates enough money to buy a certain amount of rice that goes to the UN World Food Program, and it's and they've actually created a lot of aid through it because I guess a lot of people are playing it. But
It's
Right,
not
it's
like
ad supported.
Peggle where Sally Struthers' face pops up on the side of the screen when you get like X number of answers right.
no, this is Sally Struthers free.
no,
So you
and
don't have to worry.
it's strangely addictive. Like you're trying to sort of beat your previous best level. Because as
gets
you
hard
go, it
pretty
gets
fast,
harder.
too.
Yeah, it gets pretty fucking hard.
Yeah,
like,
you got to have a good vocabulary. Be good at SAT type stuff.
Yeah, and it gets down to just basically looking at the word and being like, okay, I sort of know what part of that word means, you know?
A good
review.
Latin base will help you.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you tempted to cheat since you could just like open another browser window and go to Merriam-Webster.com?
No, I mean that would make it like not very interesting. If
That
you
would be
cheat.
tainted.
Ryan
words.
would do
Yeah.
that.
Of course, if you do that, all you're doing is like helping somebody get food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
cheating,
that's-
I'm
well,
helping,
that's
I'm
the
helping
hook,
feed
'cause-
people.
That's the hook because I've no other vocabulary quiz game where you pick 5 choices has ever made me want to keep playing. But for some reason, I'm like, there's rice appearing in this little bowl over on the side here. So
Yeah, there's
what we
something
really need is we
satisfying
need
that-
free rice bots. We need people who are just playing that all day and winning, so that
Yeah.
people get more food.
But I'm
Hack that
interested in
motherfucker.
this model. I would play other casual games that do that sort of thing. But the guy who made it like isn't even making any money off of it. It's
Right.
not like he donates a certain portion of the proceedings. He made the game and sort of gave it away. And
Yep. Right.
now it just goes to
Right. If you are
the
interested, it is just that. It is freerice.com.
Yeah, very cool
And it's
and fun.
very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but otherwise,
feel good about yourself.
I've
while
been
you
playing
play.
a lot of computer games, actually. I think Sean's attempt to convert me into a computer gamer, a PC gamer, has finally
starting to
succeeded.
pay
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Cool.
I finally got a nice video card and started playing various things I'd been wanting to try for a long time, like Stalker.
Did you have
you
one of
digging
those stay up? I hope you did, because I
Oh God, yeah.
mentioned to the podcast listeners last week that you were up late, got back up to finish.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that I was dying to finish the game. It was that I couldn't sleep because have you guys ever had the problem that you stay up playing a game for a while and somehow the imagery from the game
Yes.
gets sort of burned into your
Yes.
brain?
Yes.
Oh, and I
All
was
bad.
trying to sleep and I just kept on waking up feeling like I was sitting at the keyboard or something.
Yeah.
And I finally got up and kept playing, which is probably the stupidest thing you can do if you want to sleep but can't because you're thinking about a game.
Mm-hmm.
But
It happened to me with like turn-based strategy games most of the time, where I'm like
Yes.
in an infinite like loop of making moves.
Yes. This has
horrible.
been happening to me as I keep on my Civ 4 edition.
Dude, that's exactly the
It
loop
keeps
of
happening.
move shit. I was like,
Yeah.
this is the saddest thing, because last night, I'm not making this up, not for the timing or anything, but like actually last night I woke up because I was having like a crummy dream, and I was basically playing. You know how dreams work, right? So it's like I was playing Half-Life or something in a Half-Life world, but it was real. Mm-hmm. But it was like also, even at the same time that it was real, I was aware that it was like it started to become clear to me that it was a shittily designed level with respawn loops and stuff, but it was still real at the same time. So I couldn't like ever get out of this area. And I was like, so I wasn't making, that's the other thing with dreams, you get these things where you never make progress or something. It's like the Sisyphus version of a dream, where you throw a punch and it feels like it's underwater. I mean, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, that sadly,
Yeah, I think I have a lot of
frustrating
frustrating dreams like that, where it's just repetitive elements that bother me a lot, or just, I mean, it's almost like mental illness or something. It's like I never have cool dreams, or at least I don't remember cool dreams where I do really interesting things or have any sort of insights. It's mainly that I'll get stuck in some sort of weird world where something happens over and over and over again.
You don't get the flying dream?
Oh, like the falling dream? or
No,
the
like
flying
the flying dream.
You get the
Well, like,
falling one.
This
No, I get
time
the
I'm not
falling
dreaming.
dream.
This time it's real. I really can fly.
No,
Hi, guys. Look at me up here.
This weird version
really
of
have that one.
Where, like, throughout my whole life,
love
about
that
like 40% of my dreams, it's just take it for granted, but I could swim through the air. So it's not like real flying. You do the same exact stuff you would if you were swimming,
Huh.
but you can get in the air that way. It's weird.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I've been playing a lot of PC games, Stalker in particular, which is really not really my cup of tea because it's so horrific and scary, and I'm a total wuss when it comes to scary games, and this game scares the shit out of me.
Did you start getting? I
Like-
take it you started getting down into the underground facilities.
the underground stuff really bothers me. Like last night, I got to a point to where I got to another underground thing, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm playing this during the day." Seriously, I turned it off.
I
was like,
agree. It's
I gotta
not
play
that
this then.
sophisticated with what it does underground. I mean, like you get to the parts where there's like, poltergeist type activity and just
Yeah.
sounds and stuff, but it's like the atmosphere, like you feel like I loved it as soon as I'm like, I can't counting the minutes that I'm down here. Let me get done with what I need to do down here and get back up. And even though you're getting back up to this like post-Chernobyl wasteland, it's like fucking amazing and like peaceful compared to being down in those shitty bunkers.
And it's just really claustrophobic, and you can die really quickly. I think that's part of
like a real threat of death.
It's just like you can fuck up and not react in 2 seconds and die. And I think what bothers me is that the game, because it keeps introducing things underground, gives you the feeling that you just don't know what it is you're going to find. Like that's what bothers me most. It's like, okay, it scared the shit out of me like the last 3 times I've gone down here by throwing some weird shit at me, like I know I'm about to come up on something I haven't seen and I'm not going to know what to do. And that really bothers me. But yeah, the game is really scary but really compelling. I found the outdoor stuff to be like way more interesting than the scary stuff, mainly because I want to avoid the scary stuff, but I love cruising around, like finding little camps of bandits and taking them out and looting their stuff.
And just like that famous, like when the review time came, I kept talking about this one gigantic structure where it's like an old warehouse thing or some production plant, and it's like you go out to it and there's really not much at all going on in there. I mean, and whereas most games, if they were to ever invest that much time and effort into creating the assets for it, they're going to make sure it's a major point of the game, it's a major level, and it's just kind of there, and there's just a few people in there, but like it's just cool. It always struck me. It's cool. It makes me. I
think they really wanted to get across the feeling of the Chernobyl exclusion zone, which I actually visited when I wrote about the game in a preview for Games for Windows, or for I guess it was GFW, or it was Computer Gaming World at the time.
One version,
but it's really reminding me of going there. That was like one of the craziest things I've ever done in my entire life, and playing the game really like reminds me of that. I mean, it was really scary. They didn't really explain, what we would be getting into when they told us that we'd be going to Chernobyl. I mean, we pulled up to Chernobyl in a bus, like the reactor. They're like, don't worry, guys, it's safe as long as we only stay for 30 minutes. and meanwhile, as we're trying to leave after we look at the thing, you've got like all these European journalists like taking pictures of each other in front of the thing, and I'm standing next to the bus. I'm like, I can go anytime. We can leave. I do not need a picture.
Didn't that feel even weird too? I mean, that aspect of the game is like, that's the whole nature of Chernobyl, is a fearing the invisible. I mean, right? So, but it's like you're not going to feel any different while it's happening. You're not going to hear anything.
And the Geiger counter, the Geiger counter thing is really frightening.
But it's like it's got to be just dreadful. I mean, when you're like, it's not. You can't do anything either. You can't get in the bus. It's not like the bus is made of lead or something.
Well, there was barriers. One moment on that trip where we drove through a place called the Red Forest, which is in the game, and it's still like the worst site of radioactivity in the area, besides like underneath the sarcophagus, because a lot of the fallout fell on this forest and turned it red and fucked it all up. Well, like they tell us, they're telling us about this place as we're driving through it at like 50 miles an hour. They're like, this is a very bad place, and they have the Geiger counter just going.
And for 1 second,
oh my god!
For 1 second, all you guys look like skeletons, like on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But the game really has me in its claws, and so I've been playing a lot of that. I'm just playing a lot of games though, like kind of annoyingly. Like I need to have a life. Like,
nah.
What else you play?
I mean, I'm playing like a million different things at once. Like I've been playing the Professor Layton game on DS. That's fun. Like
puzzles.
It's a puzzle game, and it's kind of a you play a couple puzzles and you put it down kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I've been playing Patapon, which is pretty cool.
I bought Patapon. I'm liking it.
Yeah, it's cool, and when you have like a really fun time with it, it's fun. But then there's a lot of grinding that I'm getting like annoyed at, because I'll find that I'm not able to consistently defeat certain things in order to make my guys more powerful. It's like, God, I should be at the point to where I could kill these things and get more powerful. But
you basically have to go back to the food hunting plane like 3 times between each mission. It starts to get obnoxious.
That gets kind of annoying. And then I'm playing Smash Brothers, and
I need to get that.
I'm
playing Smash.
Yeah,
Playing a lot
If
of
they
that.
still have them,
it's really only.
Did you pre-order?
I think it's only really worth playing if you're going to play with people.
right online.
Yeah.
Well, you play with
Well,
us.
not online.
Rory
Like
and
play
Matt and James have got it.
play in person. I mean, I don't.
That's a couch game.
Coming over to my
Yeah.
house to play Smash Brothers. So
Yeah. But it's that's cool too. And then I've been playing a bunch of the N Plus for Xbox, the version of that free Flash game that it came out on Xbox
I know
Live. Do you
what
guys
you're
know that?
Yeah.
I've heard about it. Yeah.
Ninja Plus or whatever. That's that little like stick figure.
Yeah,
silly
it's
looking
like
guy.
this crazy
It's like load-
it's probably the
load
most
runner.
hardcore platforming game of all time. I mean, it's you have to be basically a ninja in order to get past some of the levels, because it's like the most daunting obstacles you've ever seen in a game, even though it's really simplified. You're this tiny guy and a screen full of enemies that are basically like dots or red dots or I mean there's nothing to them, but the physics of jumping in the game are really compelling, and you basically, each one of these tiny levels, have to figure out a sort of flight path through all the obstacles, and you'll try it over and over and over again. I mean, there are certain levels where you can go and like find people talking about them online because they're just so notoriously painful. It'll take you an hour of trying it over and over and over again and looking at YouTube videos to find strategies and stuff.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's one of
They're
these.
still playing.
It's totally masochistic, but I've got a real like perfectionist, masochistic kind of streak in me when it comes to games that certain games will really like tweak that, and I'll just feel the need to beat something that's seems incredibly hard.
Did you love all those like levels in the original Mega Man where like the platforms would phase in and out? And there'd never be more than one on screen.
I think love is a little strong. I think I probably hated them, but I definitely played them until I could do it.
So there's that whole genre of platformer, which is memorizing the patterns that thing emerge. Like the Ghouls and Ghosts games and stuff were like that too, where you just got to remember to jump this way, then jump right back that way.
But
Not into that anymore.
there's some reward in games like that. You feel like you learn this process, and then when you perfectly execute the process, you're like, "Ooh, I did it!" It feels like a real
It's an
moment.
abstraction for like playing a song or something.
No, it's
Kinda,
true.
yeah.
It-
Like a
it-
Guitar
It's
Hero
all
response.
janky the first few times.
yeah. Well, and it's also in the same way that playing something over and over again, it becomes kind of second nature, because you're not dealing with anything like variable. You're just seeing the same thing over and over again. So all you have to do is get your muscle memory to work, get your hands to move in just the right way.
Well, isn't this the truth of any platformer? I mean, the Marios are like this.
Yeah.
Even games like Prince of Persia are like this, where it's basically trial and error, finding where the traps are,
Yeah.
and memorizing.
Although,
the path.
again,
there's some games.
Lair.
Some games telegraph them well enough, or like give you enough clues that what moves you have, and you can get by the trap just by kind of seeing it coming.
And
the
I would
first
also
time.
say a game like Super Mario Brothers has enough different approaches to any particular moment. Just the original Super Mario Brothers, you can get past any of those obstacles in a lot of different ways. It's not like, and I'm sure that in Plus there are a million different ways to get past these things, but it's so difficult and so crazy that you basically define your routine and you have to do that routine. Whereas in Super Mario Brothers, you really can, if you're halfway decent, just sort of float by, jump on things, and make decisions on the fly,
Ikaruga for GameCube got that way.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
there's just tons and tons of games you could pick from any genre. The
Yeah.
old school games where it was just pattern recognition and
Any shooter, shoot 'em up.
Yeah.
Your description was just totally giving me Jumpman Jr. vibes from my Commodore 64.
Oh, I never
Remember
played
Jumpman Jr.
any Commodore 64 games. But
No.
what was Jumpman Jr.?
I mean, it probably has a lot to do with the fact that it looked a lot like this game. You're a little pixelized guy, and you had a one-screen universe with ladders and these specific little, circles you had to pick up. So it was just a matter of learning when to jump, when your platform's going to be in the right position.
yeah.
this
On these
single screen
crazy-
platformers. Those were
I
cool.
do like those kind of single screen games, and especially when they're so abstracted. It reminds me of being a kid and sitting there with a piece of notebook paper and like drawing out a war. You know, did you guys ever do that? Like
Yeah,
you
I've done
would
that,
just
totally.
sit there and you create this like battle scene, and it was like as you were drawing it, the things were unfolding. You know,
Yeah,
like,
we
you
don't-
draw lines.
You
and
do
things
that with
explode.
friends too, like in school. You pass them back
Hell
and
yeah.
forth.
yeah.
That would be mutual. I'll say if you like that kind of abstraction, play Vectrex games without the plastic sheet stuck up on the screen. You know, because it was just vector graphics,
Yeah.
lines and stuff. Did anyone that when you're talking about that game, has anyone else played Miner 2049er?
No.
ColecoVision.
No,
That's
not.
sounds funny though.
That was one of the first games that I really loved.
You had a ColecoVision?
I mean, I played plenty of games before that. Yeah, I mean, I had stuff from the Odyssey on, but that was one of the first games where I'd just play over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That Coleco, man, had the number buttons.
Although, you know, back in the day, I feel like I mostly played games over and over and over again because that was like the only thing I had. You know, you'd have a game and you just, this is your game for Christmas. You
Yeah.
better like it. You know, because there was no game rental, none of this.
There was
You
trading.
know, now kids get like GameFly and it just comes to your house. Like that's
Trade with your
crazy.
friends.
Yeah,
That was
trade
the
with
only
your
You
option.
don't understand.
Yeah.
Oh my
Don't
god!
let your
I was
mom
the
know.
maintainer of the neighborhood game library. We had a big document on my Commodore.
That's
Wow.
pretty
I would
cool that
print
you
out
were
dot
managing
matrix
editor back
copies.
then.
Yeah, I would print out dot matrix copies of the entire list to the for the neighborhood kids, and like we would all rate them and give them star ratings.
Holy
Really?
shit.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Holy
pretty cool.
shit! Wow.
I wish that I lived in your
I
neighborhood.
just
like,
realized that like that's what I do now.
See? That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Whoa.
kids in my neighborhood were not.
It is, man.
Kids in my neighborhood were not down with trading the games. Not into it.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Just didn't like to
Yeah.
share. Or
I mean, well, there was like one kid who, you know, the sort of archetypal rich kid who had a million games, like to the point where he'd like lose Nintendo games. Who loses Nintendo games
Oh
when
my
you're like
God.
8 years old or 10 years old, you know? And people would sort of come over to his house and play and beg to borrow games, but otherwise everyone else was kind of, you know, you had your Super Mario Brothers.
did he lend him or was he greedy about
He
it?
was greedy, and he had a GI Joe aircraft carrier.
That's always that same
Was he
kid.
really fat?
The U.S.
No, he
flag.
wasn't. And as he got older, he was, you know, a likable and popular guy
I
who
hate this
dated like good-looking women.
Well,
Wow.
he got his comeuppance in the end, though, right?
No,
Shit.
people don't.
Then
get,
it's coming, damn it.
people
Yeah,
don't
he's
get
still
their
gonna get hit by
comeuppance
a
in
bus.
the end. That's such a fictional farce.
The greatest extent of his comeuppance is that he got dip-ripped. Dude, but let's
there
go
you
back to that aircraft carrier, the flag.
Yeah.
That was like the toy that was made, like for my generation.
The hell was that?
I just heard some shit.
That was my phone. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Speakerphone.
Sound like a Tamagotchi.
For my generation, that was the signifier of the Richie Rich. You know, like it was. I was convinced it was made for that kid you're talking about. In my case, I knew the kid who had it, and it was like, yep, that's the one.
Yeah.
Go to his house, swim in his pool, enjoy his jacuzzi, and see what, you know, play the slot machines in the living room, hanging around the fireplace. Look at it. He's got the aircraft carrier.
I
The
think,
rest of us is
I think
like,
there's one even better
Let's go throw some
signifier,
more eggs in our apartment complex.
and that's a go-kart. That was the ultimate thing for me when I was a
Have
kid.
your
To
own-
know,
or your own,
You knew
like,
know someone who had a
go-kart?
go-kart. Yeah.
Really? Oh man, that's
Oh, I knew
way beyond.
I knew at least 2 or 3 people who had go. I mean, I guess maybe this is a Texas thing because we had fields.
Oh, okay.
So you could,
Suburban Buffalo does not have much go
It was the
karts.
the three-wheeler era.
yeah.
It was like the
God, those things
dumbest
are
thing
dangerous.
ever.
Oh
Yeah, dude.
God, just hit a pothole hole just wrong and you break your fucking neck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those things are insane.
but yeah, kids, rich kids,
I want to talk about some more.
they
of
run the world.
more of those toys like that. What else is there? Ryan, it's your turn.
Hey, I'll say, hold on, PCs for playing games.
That's the other thing. That's why
Back
I
in
didn't
the
become a
day,
PC game. I didn't have a PC at all. I got my first PC when I was in graduate school. Like even undergrad, I had to go to the fucking library. Like, and so I never played, but I would now and then I'd have a friend who would have one.
Yeah.
And a computer, or like, I mean, in elementary school, you know, like they had like an Apple II. But yeah, that was mysterious. Seeing people playing computer games.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit! I remember the first Apple with a mouse. The same friend that had the carrier, they had one. I remember playing some like game where you're like a little knight or something and you throw rocks at shit. It was cool, man.
I love that one.
That was a cool
Oh
game.
man, and computers like had the best graphics too. So you'd go over, you're like playing Nintendo or Atari. You'd go over to see someone's computer games, be like, "Oh my God, what is this?
Yeah,
This is amazing."
especially compared
Depending
to
on what
Atari.
computer they had.
Yeah,
Right.
true.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, we do not spite the rich.
No, we don't. We love the rich.
Yes,
okay,
bias things.
We're going to take a break.
3, 2, 1.
You're the best around.
Listen to EGM Live, the weekly podcast for Electronic Gaming Monthly, available every Monday for download at egmlive.oneup.com or podcast.oneup.com or the iTunes Music Store.
Sweep the leg. Sweep the leg, Johnny. Sweep the leg.
We're back. During our break here, Robert Ashley was explaining how the game industry works to us, and he had a term for it.
Actually, it was.
No.
We were talking about why we're not going to talk about Smash Brothers.
That was what it was in reference to.
Well, the reason
yes.
we weren't going to talk about Smash Brothers was people were already covering it a lot, but then I was saying that everyone's got the game, and now they're no longer stoking their game boner. And what I was saying was, and this is something I have to give credit to my friend Willis. He sort of invented this term game boner, but there's a certain thing that happens to a young man when he sets his eyes on a game that he really wants to play that's far in the distance, and the only thing he can do about that game lust is to look at screenshots and badly written previews and dissect every detail of gameplay and talk about it online.
Read interviews about her.
And make avatars, make avatars out of
what her favorite
screenshots
color is.
and stuff. But basically, I was just saying that this whole thing, the whole reason that you are listening to this podcast, dear listener, or reading One Up, is that everyone gets a game boner now and then, and you just got to stoke
normal.
it.
It's true. It's natural. Go with it.
And we exist to fulfill that need. We're kind of the
game boner stokers.
The game boner.
We're the
we're changing professional enthusiast with game boner stoker.
Yeah. and also, it applies when you're at a game store. Have you ever been like day one to a video game store? Where it's a big release day, and there's going to be a bunch of nerds out looking for a game. Like, so you go to Target and you see this guy like standing by the glass case, and he's looking around. He looks at you, and he's like looking for the guy to show up, and he's sort of impatient, and you can just tell that he's there to get the game. And you're like, yeah, that's when you know that guy has got a massive game.
Haven't we all been that guy?
Yeah. Because you're there to get that game. Like, I remember when I was looking for the original Guitar Hero when it came out, and I went all over town, and I got to an EB Games, and there was a guy in there who was pacing around while someone was looking in the back, and I was like, "So, are you looking for a Guitar Hero?" And he's like, "Yeah." And, it was a moment.
So basically, you could have the system boner too, right then.
Well, you could.
Like for the Wii.
Yeah.
And there's like surrogates too. The equivalent of a surrogate when you have a game boner for one game, but then it's like delayed or it's not out or you don't get it for one reason, so you get something else. Mm-hmm. So you have these you have surrogates. So
I have a particular disorder where I convince myself, I guess, that I don't really care. And then the day the thing comes out, all of a sudden, all of my pent up repressed feeling, I'm just like, holy fuck, I should have pre-ordered this thing. I'm like going from store to store to store. No one's got it. They're like, did you pre-order it? I'm like, no, I didn't think I wanted it.
Yeah.
Like, too bad.
I think I'm going to have that with Grand Theft Auto, actually. Like, I've been avoiding, looking forward to that game, but the day it comes out, I know I'm going to wake up and be like, oh my God, I got to get to the game.
Well, part of the problem, too, especially if you, are around people like us who are doing this all day for a living, is like that's with Smash Brothers. Like, I didn't get it, and that's all everyone's talking about in this building, and I'm just like, I have to fucking get this now. Patapon was the same thing.
Yeah.
There were 3 days around here where all you guys are like, pat that pon. Like,
but that's so funny.
We weren't
saying, we weren't even saying we loved it.
Yeah.
You just hear people doing that.
I know, but I wanted to know
to
what that was.
You wanted to be able to.
So I was doing that at home all weekend. I was doing it to my dog and my.
Chaka, patapon.
Yeah. So what game would you say that you guys have the biggest raging game boner for right now?
Mine would have been Smash Brothers.
We talked about this last week.
Well, now you're spent.
You are sated.
Yeah, that's pretty much what
you're spent. What do you got up next?
I don't know.
You still need some time before next one.
You're still in love. You're in that post-coital glow. You're just waking up
he's a Smash Brothers woodsman.
Wait, I thought we weren't going to talk about Smash Brothers.
Yeah,
we ended up talking about. Well, let's talk about now. It's fun because the next thing I got is sad.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Well, it's like a news item.
A sad one.
It's just kind of depressing. It's
right,
but it's.
Is it about?
So Ryan, would you say? Let's hear it. Would you say? Are you a Smash Brothers woodsman?
Come on, explain what woodsman means.
You can kind of guess.
Someone that can keep their game boner stoked for indefinitely.
Did you have Viagra for your game boner?
I'm just going to go ahead and dodge this whole...
That is wise.
Very, very well done, Ryan.
Well handled.
Nice.
What do you got there, Sean?
Okay, so piracy's been coming up off and on in the show, as it will when you're dealing with PC games. During GDC week, we were talking about it with some of the developers that we had guesting on our show, and there's always it always leads to these spirited, message board discussions where some people say people are blowing it out of proportion. It's insane. It's like these are just excuses. These are developers or whoever making excuses for their game just not being that good in the first place. But Kotaku put a story up that tracked PC gaming piracy on a single torrent site for a single day and provides some of the figures. And I think they're pretty revealing. Especially, you might want to think twice if you're at the camp where you think that piracy actually isn't happening. I don't know the extent to which it's preventing. This is an argument that no one's going to win. And to the extent to which it's actually preventing people from buying the games, I don't know. But so on Mini Nova, which is a torrent site, in one day, there were 25,734 downloads of Assassin's Creed for PC. Now, mind you, that game is not out. This is a preview code that got leaked or something along those lines. The same day, Frontlines, Fuel of War, there were 12,688. And again, keep in mind, not only this is a single day, but it's just this one
single
site. It's not like everyone does their torrenting on Mini Nova or whatever. So even now, Call of Duty 4 Modern Combat that day was 8,792. And then going back to what some of the people from Call of Duty 4, when they were complaining about piracy, said that assuming that the rate of download is now constant across those whole 3 in a bit months, which is incredibly, since the game was released, which is incredibly conservative. So, he's assuming that during the first couple weeks or the first month, there were a lot more than like 9,000 a day. That means 993,496 copies will have been illegally downloaded via Mini Nova alone. So basically 1 million at that rate just for the PC version. So other stuff on here, I mean, even the smaller figures like Turning Point Fall Liberty just came out. That's 5,200 or so. And even old games, like Age of Empires was 1,100 on that day. So it's definitely. People are ripping shit off.
This
is
worldwide numbers? Or
no,
US,
this is a day
US
on
numbers?
Mini Nova,
Okay.
which is people can access the site from anywhere. So yeah, it's not like they're just.
I wonder how many people out there right now are like, Mini Nova. Okay, I'm gonna go get me Call of Duty.
I shouldn't recommend. Don't
Well,
hopefully.
Oh, come on! I mean, if you're out to steal,
if you're out to
something,
steal,
you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
I felt, I was wondering about piracy when I went to the store to buy a copy of Crysis the other day, which I've never. This is the first time I think I've ever went out and purchased a PC game because I mainly play on Steam, and so I go out and I look for it at EB Games, and I'm looking through their junky PC shelf, which looks like like a porn rack or something.
It is nasty.
Yeah, it's like it's all like turned to the side. You can't even tell what's on there, and I'm looking for the game and I can't find it, and finally I'm like, "Do you guys have Crysis?" He's like. Got this sort of blank look on his face, and he goes, "Oh, oh, like the computer game? Yeah, let me go look." And then he goes and finds a copy in the back. But it was like I was buying something that was unheard of there. Like that must be the only
There's
copy
never
of that game.
when was the last time you saw like an in-store promo or anything?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like they
I
have a
thought Games for
cardboard.
Windows was supposed to fix all that, wasn't it?
Well, never an EB. I mean, they
PC
made their
porn
deals
rack.
with different companies. Well, wasn't Circuit City one? Circuit
City.
City was one of them, and Circuit City just liquidated all of its PC games. They're not going to sell them at all anymore.
Circuit City's in trouble, man.
Yeah. They had that massive sale, though, where people were picking up some really cool games for between $2 and $10.
Yeah,
Was that Circuit City or CompUSA?
No,
So
it's
Circuit City.
Circuit City,
Yeah.
okay.
Where service is state of the art.
Oh,
Thank.
yeah.
Are they this week's advertiser?
Man.
So
okay, that is some sad.
Well, that's some sad news.
Of course, all those people aren't going to go out and buy those games, but I mean that's some serious numbers. That means a lot of people, because these other games on here, like Assassin's Creed on PC, that takes a fucking lot of computer to run. So if this many people are getting these games, it stands to reason that quite a few people out there have good machines, and it's not just that people aren't buying the games because they don't have machines to run them.
It's also just weird that you would spend over $1,000 on a computer and then be a cheap ass about buying games. It's weird.
Yeah, right.
That's how they win the console wars arguments about which platform's better. Well, it may cost a couple $1,000, but then all the games are free for life.
Wow.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure there's people that say that.
If you are one of those people and you're listening now, fuck you. From us to you.
Did they track any console disc images on that site? Or
I'm sure they do. Yeah, this story right here
curious.
from Kotaku doesn't list those, but unless there's a possibility that it's mixed up in here, I don't know. It doesn't list it as being, but a few things make me think so. And that's that the orange box is on there. But I guess that they did sell a version of it in stores, So yeah, that's how. But I thought you had to use Steam to validate
I'm sure
it.
they found a way to.
Yeah, they're
crack
thieves.
that.
They can find.
They can find ways for everything.
But I mean, at least stuff seems to be moving to these downloadable options, which add a lot to.
This is like the top 10 for PC. I thought this was the saddest fucking
PD
way.
numbers, yeah.
Instead of hearing about The Sims and Warcraft every month, here's another look at top 10 in desirability.
This is how we'll put a positive spin on it.
And all these games, it's like The Witcher and Bioshock and Crisis.
They should start
Neverwinter
bragging.
Nights and Hellgate and World of
Our
Conflict.
game was
all these games
downloaded illegally more than any other game this week. They can start using that to sell.
For cred.
Yeah, for cred. Yeah. Number 1 most pirated game in March.
Mega Nuke's download of the month.
Right.
Whatever this place is called.
See what the fuss is all about. Download illegally today.
Ziff always has all these interns. We should just have some interns that just look up numbers like that all day. Find these little projects that.
Screw that. We need them to buy us sandwiches and shit.
I need some coffee right now, actually.
Yeah, me too.
I think stuff like that's a really interesting story. That's cool.
Yeah, totally.
Kotaku did that. Yeah.
Cool. Good on them.
Big ups to Kotaku.
Yes.
Very sad though.
Yeah, it's not a happy story, but
there's another story.
It doesn't even surprise me.
Sutra where this one developer, they had figured it out that 92% of the people playing their game had pirated it.
Oh my God!
It was for this kind of a casual game,
92.
Hey,
imagine that 92%.
They should just let people PayPal them some donations, dude.
Do Radiohead, man.
Yeah.
Radiohead learned the hard way about fucking human generosity.
You can't blame the developers then who bail out and cite this reason. You just can't.
Yeah.
Hey, at least they can take solace in the fact that people are playing their thing.
Yeah.
It's at least people are enjoying my art.
Yeah. Well, I guess more and more people are just going to have to move to some kind of, subscription model or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's why everyone's afraid that it's all going to MMOs. Yep. MMOs and free Battlefield Heroes kind of things.
I was just sitting here thinking, where was I reading this? But it was a Kim Levine interview in your magazine.
That's such a good magazine.
Yeah, it's a great magazine. No, but I think he made this point when he was talking about all these AAA big PC games falling flat on their faces this year with sales. That okay, so these guys leave the market, and it just opens up this sort of wild west of gaming, which is interesting. I mean, it's cool. That it's not as cool maybe as having everyone making great games for PC from these well-known developers, but I mean, it is interesting to see what's going to happen. It's not like gaming's going to disappear from the PC, Everyone's got a PC. It's going to have games.
You better. We're going to have to change this podcast name.
Yeah, to the Brodia
or whatever. Games for whatever. I don't know.
Games for fun.
Games for screens. We should have official Games for Screens magazine.
Screens for games.
And we can't cover the Z-Dome. I guess that's a screen.
Yeah, there's a picture of it. Screens and scores. Capture those dinosaurs, those romping, stomping dinosaurs. It's the dinosaur hunt, Chef Boyardee. Dinosaur.
Aren't you mad that occupies real estate in your brain? Like whenever I
It doesn't take very much. It's compressed very, very well.
Oh, it doesn't take up much. Sean's got a lot of space in there.
We've been playing
do.
Big Brain Academy.
Gigs.
Right.
This is how the mind works.
Yeah, you zip up these files.
But though
They're all
it
archived.
is, we were having this conversation when we were out having drinks a while back.
Yeah.
And I pointed out the stain on the table, and I told you wouldn't remember it unless I'd pointed it out, because basically you'd fill up the equivalent. If you look at the computational analogy for human cognition, and that's got its own, shortcomings and stuff, but you basically fill up your drive with every bit of information, like when you're walking down the street and every bit of sand and piece of gum on the sidewalk and stuff. So it's like, I think that song should be down there with like one of the grains of sand, but it's just
For some
enough
reason,
above
it's
it for some
marked
reason.
so that it's not deleted.
Yeah.
Because deep down inside, you think that's a damn catchy song and you like it.
I like it, man. I think it gets
You
me,
just bumped it back up at the top of
Gets
your
me
queue,
ladies.
too. So
Yeah.
Right.
going
I
away.
downloaded the YouTube ad.
What YouTube ad?
This is like Chef Warity dinosaurs.
I love. This is why I love YouTube.
You can
everything
not
from your
everything
childhood.
though. Not everything.
Damn close.
I couldn't find. They didn't have the 12-inch Mr. Because I went to check the fidelity of my memory when I was talking about some of those old jingles, and there's some that weren't on there, like Mr. T, the 12-inch. Well, they had another version, but that's not to be confused with the 12-inch doll. That had its own ad. They didn't have like Gremlins cereal. I couldn't find G.I. Joe Action Stars. While I could find Ice Cream Jones cereal, I couldn't find Fruit Island.
Fruit Island.
Fruit
Yeah,
Island?
Fruit Island with the King of Yumma Yumma.
Oh, I remember that now.
Wait, yeah, that's
Yumma Yumma.
the things that they tried to feed us when we were children.
Wait, that's
I
the
ate
name of
it.
a cereal, Fruit Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New
That
Fruit
just doesn't
Island
sound good.
cereal.
Yeah.
They had I was talking about the Now You're Cooking. It's like transforming, because like boys in that time, they had all these cool transforming toys and GoBots and stuff. So the girls, they tried to hook them up with the usual like domesticity. So they gave them like cooking utensils that would transform. But the double duty they did was so fucking pathetic that I was like, in my memory, I was like, I remember the girl saying, the taco holder is a tray. And I was like, this has to be some fault of my memory, because a taco holder, how different is that from a tray, right? But I found the commercial, and
That's what
indeed
they
they
said?
are different, because the taco holder also becomes a tray.
They should have taught them a better lesson and had like the utensils turn it into like lingerie or something, because then it'd be like the whole kitchen in the bedroom thing. Get them brainwashed early on.
Barbie's got that covered though, because Barbie comes with like you can get her own little, like, cooking stuff and,
Right.
and like miniature groceries.
Barbie homemaker
but then
stuff.
They also have those like skanked out, the tramped out ones.
The brat.
Hey, you're the father of a girl, so
I am.
You had to deal with the Bratz era and stuff.
I did.
How did you keep her away from Bratz?
Bratz was too skanky for her. She
It's too
acknowledged
skanky
that.
for
That's good.
anyone.
Yeah, I don't think she
glad to
actually
hear
used
that.
that word. I don't think she said, "Dad, these are too skanky for me." But I think she just never was into it. Well, we were like
Trifling is a word.
We were not a Barbie household either. So.
Bratz is trifling.
Trifling.
They're like, as in they out creeping.
Yeah, no, she
Dirt foots.
She wasn't into any of that.
Dirty foots.
She liked her stuffed animals. That was about it. She didn't have like the doll shit.
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. What I was
One
thinking,
soul saved.
when you're talking about breakfast cereals, I was marveling the other day that all the cereals that I liked in my youth now have, the ones that still exist, like they all had sugar in the name when I liked them.
Sugar Pops,
Sugar Pops,
Smacks.
Sugar Smacks,
Honey
Sugar
Smacks.
Frosted Flakes.
Yeah,
Every
it's
single
all
one of
gone.
them.
I
Yeah.
remember when they started removing them, too.
Because wait, what are Sugar Pops now?
Corn Pops.
Corn
Corn
Pops?
Pops, yeah.
See?
Gotta have my
Corn
Pops.
Pops.
Like as if
Sugar
corn
Smacks
is
are
that
just
much better.
smacks.
Smacks.
And think of that, smack, dude.
right.
Sugar Crisp is golden
Well, also,
crisp.
corn pop. That just sounds, those two words together just
Popcorn.
sounds terrible to me. Well, popcorn's different. Corn pop sounds nasty. But sugar pop sounded good. And Sugar Frosted Flakes. Also, the shit still has all the sugar in it.
No, now
Who are
it's
they
high
fooling?
fructose corn syrup. They can't afford
Yeah.
sugar.
No
But,
sucrose for you kids.
You remember that insidious? I love double checks chicks.
better than the rest of us.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Or that was,
Oh God.
what about that Burger King shit?
Huh?
There were many good Burger King ones. There was like the how you order the 2 all beef patties one. That one
Special sauce, lettuce, cheese.
2 all beef
pickles,
patties,
onions on a
sauce,
sesame
lettuce,
seed bun.
cheese.
Yeah.
Isn't it
Burger Mac, though?
That's Big Mac.
That's a Big
It
Mac.
beats the
Big
stuff in
Mac.
that
Oh, that's
egg
Big Mac,
McMuffin.
yeah.
It's a Burger King crust sandwich. Like that was like a regional one or something. But yeah, it was,
Oh, I see.
I can't eat that shit anymore.
We're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. The day that remember we were all the 2 print magazines were on deadline. It was CGW or GFW and EGM.
you ate a crust sandwich.
No, and she said, "Hey, since we're all on deadline, and I know you guys are all working hard, I'm bringing in breakfast." And then it was McDonald's breakfast. I was like, "Dude,
Too good
like,
for that?
How old are you?" Yeah, I was like, "What? Who are you bringing food for? Like a group of 10-year-olds?"
You think you work at Blizzard?
Yeah.
Well, we're like in San
think it
Francisco.
is
There's
around
like
here?
20 bagel shops in a 2-block radius. He's bringing in Egg McMuffins. I shouldn't be complaining about
You're an ingrate,
my
man.
boss on national public radio here, but
This isn't NPR.
oh, this isn't NPR. Well, I didn't mean that with capital letters.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's not even radio.
But
Even though it's called
Okay, on not national public
Posers, man.
internet.
I actually have a thing for McDonald's
Totally
breakfast.
posers.
I have a thing for McDonald's breakfast. Like
You
I
do?
find it strangely hard to resist when in an airport very early in the morning. Like, and I think it's mainly because I've been a vegetarian for a long time.
Okay.
And there's
forbidden
something. It's
fruit.
like the one thing that I can have at McDonald's because it doesn't have meat. You can have a biscuit with egg and cheese, and it's this total non-food thing. It's
Right.
like it's
The egg is in this unnatural cylinder shape.
but it's got the smell. They've got some sort of like engineered
Yep.
smell that probably has some sort of
Hell yeah.
chemical in it that just makes me like want
That's
to eat
Berkeley talking right there, man.
it. Oh
Some
god.
engineeed smell to get you hooked.
I was totally
Fucking bastards at McDonald's.
I was totally agreeing with him. Yeah.
You guys are so Berkeley.
I was totally agreeing with him. yeah.
They had a story.
Sinister.
They had a story in Berkeley last night on the Daily Show. You guys should download it.
This
I saw that one.
we should talk about too. You're visiting that fucking despicable protest.
Oh God, yeah. I took my field recorder. I have an audio field recorder down to the big marine protest.
That was
yeah.
the Daily Show story that I saw.
Yeah, we made the national
Oh, this
news
is they
again.
they did.
It wasn't at the protest. They went and like interviewed people from Code Pink, which is the Berkeley organization that protests the Marine Recruitment Office. And if you live in Berkeley, you can drive by every day and see these people out there, and it's pretty much like the dregs of Berkeley. People who should probably not be allowed to leave their houses for fear that they might, step into traffic and die because they lack the kind of common sense and brains that get most of us through the day without violent death.
Well, you said you saw one of the fools from the tree protest.
Yeah, well, no,
had relocated.
the tree. No, I didn't see anyone from the tree protest. I talked to.
Oh no, you did. I read about this
Yeah.
actually. It was actually the San Francisco Chronicle identified them by because they have some dumb made up names that they have, and it placed several. We need to give some context for our non-Californian listeners. Basically, Berkeley, everything you heard about is true, but for the longest time, there's
Jeff, what do you think?
at the University of Berkeley, they had these trees that they wanted to. Okay, everything is going to take more explanation. Their stadium is built on the middle of a fucking fault line. They need to renovate it and relocate it and do some other stuff, but that's going to require cutting down a few trees that the school planted in the 1920s or something?
as decoration for the stadium.
Yeah. So some locals decided, no, I ain't cutting down those fucking trees.
Trees
Now,
are
mind you,
living
how
creatures.
many trees in seriously important areas in the country are getting cut down, not by the 2s or 3s, but by the fucking thousands. But they were saving these trees, this whole think locally shit.
Yeah, let me interrupt you with something, though, huh? What would Treebeard think about all this?
Well, Treebeard climbed the
You guys are like fucking
he climbed
Saruman.
the tree and stayed in there and stewed in his own fucking feces for half of a year while the feces dripped down onto the area and turned the whole place into just a rotten
Okay, you're not
cesspool.
explaining this very well. The
What?
people camped up in the trees
To protest,
and as a form of protest, but really it was a lot of people who would have been bumming around as homeless, alcoholics in Berkeley anyway, and they just decided to live in the trees. And so they had a giant shit bucket, which apparently was extremely unsanitary, and lots of it dripped down.
Sorry for the hyperbole.
Yeah, lots of it dripped down onto the ground below and has made like a really disgusting mess.
Is that true?
It's true.
Robert went and interviewed these people.
Yeah, I did. I took my field recorder and met a guy who called himself Orange and said that his name last week had been Apple. But we.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. He
Like
didn't have a real name. But
Alvin Walter Broyles III.
I tried
to name
because I had this stewing anger about the people in the trees for a long time, and one day I was like, maybe I don't get it. Maybe I'm just being judgmental. Maybe I should go down there and talk to them and see, maybe they have a reason to be down there. And I go down there, and they were absolutely the craziest people I've ever met. I mean, there was a girl there who was sitting in the bushes, like with topless, with sparkle paint all over her.
That doesn't sound so bad.
No, but check it out.
Yeah, but her hair was mad dirty.
I go to interview this guy Orange near her. He has us sit down in like a patch of crap, like in a bush. It's like we could have sat in the grass, but he wants to sit in a bush. So we like kneel down into this bush, and I start asking him why he's there. And the girl who is topless with the sparkle paint suddenly becomes angry after just talking to him for about 30 seconds and comes over to me and says, "Excuse me, I am pregnant and I'm trying to have my baby off the grid. Can you take your technology somewhere else?" She was 5 feet away from a busy street.
But your field recorder
she was
messing
not deep
up.
in the woods, like in the fucking fertile womb of Mother Nature. Right. She was in a heavily trafficked part of the campus of the University of California at Berkeley. But anyway, I talked to this guy for like 30 minutes, in which he proceeded to explain to me how the public university system in California equals the man. I really couldn't figure that out, considering they're like starved for money and trying to give a decent education to the people who don't have the money to go to Stanford out here. But he absolutely thought of things in terms of like everybody just wants money.
Actually, Stanford now is fairly. They have this whole program now that there's free tuition for families who make less than. I think it's $100,000 a year.
I think it's even more than that. I think it's like $150,000 a year.
Oh, is that right?
And then above that, there's aid.
Better
but then you got to get into Stanford. But it certainly is a powerful.
How many do they accept there?
Powerful incentive,
Pardon me for moving the story along, but Apple and Orange then takes us back to Project Pink.
Okay.
So, Project Pink, there's a Marine Code Pink. God. So there's a Marine recruiting station in downtown Berkeley. And furthermore, as I understand it, it's actually specializes in recruiting officers who have like enrolled in the university's ROTC program.
Yeah, let me.
And it's been there a while.
Explain what you were going to say, and then I'll give you a little tidbit about that.
That said, Code Pink decided that they don't want the recruiting office is not welcome in the city, and that somehow, as if they go and they take people by the scruff of the neck and forcibly pull them in there, and then hold a gun to their head and say, "You know what? We need you to sign these papers." And as if they're not adults, as if they're not condescending to adults who are making the decision, deciding how to live their lives and what they want to do. But then that was enough right there. They're entitled to do that. That's totally fine. But they then pressured the city, who agreed that, like, you know what, we're going to provide these Code Pink people, Operation Pink, whatever it is, something pink,
Code Pink,
the stinky pink. We're going to give the sorry, that was uncalled for. I apologize. We're going to give the pink
some respect.
a parking spot in front of the recruiting station, and they're going to be able to use that at all times. It's reserved just for them. So it's like, what the fuck is this, drive-through protesting? But then
technically they got it once a week, but
you're my fact checker. I need that. So then they the city actually signed some bit of paper or some announcement saying that the recruiting office is not welcome in the city of Berkeley.
And this is the only part where I am now saying this was wrong.
That's what
until
was
this
wrong.
point.
Yeah.
And
Whatever. People are allowed to protest.
So then-
it was the city council passing this thing saying.
Right. And then,
go ahead.
Then they had the protest, and the saddest thing was that it was then immediately characterized between the pink crazies who are like, we can't believe this. It's their right to do it, but protesting that the city, back up them and officially say that they're not welcome here. And then the other side are people like, oh, we totally support the war in Iraq and, go war and all this. It's like, where the fuck happened to the middle ground?
Right.
Of like, dude,
Well, and
no one's taking you, like what I just said. You go in there when you
Right.
want to. When you decide that's what the career you're going to follow.
And this is what makes me want
this is
to
who you wanna
defend
be.
Berkeley in this discussion here is like, that the idea of protest, of course, is perfectly American.
Oh, wait, absolutely.
So the
Absolutely.
anti-Berkeley protest that followed this idiotic decision about the city council, to me, was starting to get really uncomfortable.
Wait,
this
why?
Berkeley should secede from the union crap.
Yeah.
That is more
except-
protest that you're just saying that you just said that you wanted to defend, though.
Of course, I'm just saying that the fact that Berkeley that this does not mean Berkeley therefore should secede from the union.
No,
I just
no,
thought-
but
I
that's
just
the
thought
whole
that-
notion of the protest is that it's like fucking lunacy. Like there's no proportion.
I just thought
yes.
that both sides were absolutely showing their worst. I mean, there was a big protest that I went to after the city council passed their ordinance. It was the week after, and everyone knew it was going to be a big national deal. All the news people showed up, and I go down there, and it's literally people in code pink shirts that are screaming about the Marines being killers versus people in Rush Limbaugh t-shirts and like vacant looks in their eyes, like yelling and screaming at
So basically, we should have nuked the entire protest.
Oh, it was been
rid of
absolutely-
both sides.
It was so disheartening to me, like to go down there. It was like, oh my god, I don't understand what's wrong with us. Like it was terrible. I mean, what I was going to mention is I was just overhearing like little mini fights all the time. I was going around with my recorder, and one of them was one of the sort of people on the right yelling at one of the local Berkeley guys. The local Berkeley guy's like, you know what? We don't want the Marines coming down here and recruiting our high school children, because we're right next to the high school. He's like, look at that high school. It's right there, right next to the recruiter. And the other guy's like, but it's a recruiting office for college-age kids. Don't you know that? It's for the college. And then they're yelling, and he's like, fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. And they're screaming at each other and not able to communicate anything at all. And just, like, blasting music. Like, the people who were there to protest Berkeley showed up with a giant PA system, and they played, like, Toby Keith songs at maximum volume the entire time.
That's
we're gonna
not
put
fair.
a boot up your ass.
I mean, that's
song.
not fair.
Oh, it was hideous.
Dirty.
Yeah, that's dirty politics.
Yeah,
But,
but the Pink could have played blasted the Indigo Girls though.
Yeah.
That's also not fair. I don't know how we got on this. This somehow turned into the local Berkeley City City Council week in review.
Yeah. Well, it was a national news story though, so I think people did hear about it.
Back
And
to
like
Smash Brothers.
Like I said, it was on the Daily Show last night, and I would love to play a video game that would portray the events of this Berkeley protest.
We need to sim
wow.
Berkeley.
There was.
Yes.
It was called State of Emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna on this train
Sorry.
wreck of an ending. We're gonna.
That was a good ending.
That was a
that
great
was
ending.
real stuff that matters.
You're right.
What's better to talk about? The
Lost.
boners, the
Game
boners
boners.
we stoke for Smash Brothers fans,
Or the Batman comics,
or how
Blizzard
batshit
urinals.
insane Apple and Orange is. Well, depending on the week, when he's up to no good downtown Berkeley.
You get it all in GFW.
That's
do.
real talk right there.
It's a potpourri.
Real talk. That's it. Okay, the final note. Right now, everyone go to YouTube, Google R. Kelly Real Talk, and we out. We out.
Real talk.